My amendment would strike $500 million in funding for nuclear-armed Israel's missile defense system. And it's important to phrase it that way. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation, which is very capable of defending themselves, and they have been proving that so as we've watched on the world stage. The U.S. already provides Israel with $3.8 billion annually in foreign aid.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment seeking to cut $500 million in military aid for Israel failed 422-6 on the House floor yesterday. So Cenk, I'm gonna tell you and our viewers who the other 5 who voted for the amendment were. But I think the more shocking part of this story for people will be some of the people who didn't vote for this amendment. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the same thing I was gonna say. I mean, some of the folks that didn't vote for it are puzzling, but I'm gonna give you an answer as to why they voted the way that they did. But if you're still in the camp of no, we're not gonna give any right-wingers or Republicans credit for anything. I mean, you can't ask for anything more than Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, let's cut funding to Israel, at least on this issue, right? So I give them way more credit on this issue than the overwhelming majority of Democrats. But we'll discuss it and you'll see why.
Absolutely. So her amendment to the House's defense appropriations bill would have cut funding for the Israeli Cooperative Program, an agreement through which the US provides Israel $500 million for programs for missile defense. So that includes $60 million for their Iron Dome system. And she's correct though, that the United States already provides Israel with $3.3 billion annually in what the State Department calls foreign military financing. Nonetheless, only 6 people voted in favor of her amendment, including her. So other than Greene, those other lawmakers were, as Cenk said, Representative Thomas Massie, who is the only Republican. And then also we have Al Green, Summer Lee, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib. So Congresswoman Betty McCollum actually spoke out in opposition to the amendment on the House floor, arguing that since the money that Greene was looking to cut is meant for Israel's defensive systems, not its offensive systems, it would compromise Israel's safety. And Republican Congressman Randy Fine went even further than that, accusing Greene of being America last.
I rise in opposition to this America Last amendment and reject the premise of the arguments that are being made. There are 600,000 Americans who live in Israel, and 1 rocket has been fired against every 23 of them. 26,000 rockets since October 7th. 43 Americans killed on October 7th, 12 taken hostage. But more importantly, the research that this fund is the premise behind the Golden Dome. When we support research and development for the Iron Dome, we are creating the capability for the United States to defend itself as well. And I have news, we have a nuclear weapon too. That doesn't get you off the hook with those who are out to get you. When we pass this, when we oppose this amendment, when we vote it down, we are not only standing with Israel, we are standing with the best interests of the United States.
Jerry Nadler also announced his opposition on X, and he wrote this. He said, I will proudly vote against Marjorie Taylor Greene's brutally anti-Israel amendment, which seeks to eliminate funding for Iron Dome and other joint US-Israel missile defense programs critical to Israel's fundamental security. I've long supported such funding, and it has been crucial to defending innocent Israeli civilians, especially in existential attacks against Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. And let's be clear, the only amendment coming to the floor in the DoD funding bill that cuts funds for Israel's security, including programs like Iron Dome, is being offered by a Republican, not a Democrat. Greene actually proposed 6 amendments in total. The others included prohibiting more funding for Ukraine and also cutting funds meant for disaster relief and AIDS education in other countries, and all of them failed. And in response, she did call out her colleagues on both sides of the aisle on X, saying, tonight, all of my amendments to cut $1.6 billion in foreign aid out of our defense budget failed because both Republicans and Democrats refused to stop sending your hard-earned tax dollars to foreign countries. The House overall passed the overall defense funding bill in a 221 to 209 vote. 3 Republicans opposed it, while 5 Democrats joined the rest of the GOP in getting the bill across the finish line. The bill allocates about $832 billion in funding for the Department of Defense programs for fiscal year 2026. So a lot to unpack here. Cenk, I know you have some ideas on why certain people voted the way that they did vote, or why they didn't choose to support Marjorie Taylor Greene on this particular initiative. The whole idea that Marjorie Taylor Greene is America last because she doesn't want to fund Israel, which I think a lot of our Congress people forget is actually a separate country from the United States. That is kind of just a wild line of thinking to even go down, and then not even just to entertain, but then to present it to the House and in the middle of the debate. So yeah, Cenk, let's start with you. What do you think about all this? Why people voted the way they did, and why some Democrats are still so reluctant to separate themselves and this country and all of our tax dollars from Israel?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get to why people voted the way they did in a sec. But first, on the substance of the bill. So they say, this is really for defensive purposes and we need it so badly, all this missiles and stuff. And 60 of the 500 is going to Iron Dome. Wait. What's the other 440 million going to? And so in case you're not aware of how much Israel lies, and by the way, how much our politicians lie on behalf of Israel, Marie Newman, a former congresswoman, told a story right here on the Young Turks in the interview I did with her. You could find it on YouTube, where she said she voted for Iron Dome in one of the appropriation bills. And then Israel came back and asked for another $8 billion for Iron Dome. And they said, we need batteries. And she voted against that one because she said, what does that mean? You need batteries. What is the 8 billion actually going for, right? They're like, no, it's you can't know. What? I can't know? No, I'm voting no, right? And they apparently, she said afterwards, a group of Democratic Congresspeople came up to her furious, and they said, you voted against Israel. There's going to be consequences, and you could watch the interview. She said that they told her, that's it, we're gonna take all your money away and we're gonna come for you in the next election cycle. By the way, they did. They spent $4 million against her, AIPAC and other affiliated groups, and she was defeated. Okay, so that gives you one explanation for why 422 members of the House voted for Israel. Because if they don't vote with Israel, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, they're told they're done. It's the last vote you'll ever take. You put America goddamn last, you put Israel first, otherwise you're gonna get fired. Okay, that's one of the reasons. And so now let's get to the heart of their things. Well, I mean, Jerry Nadler says this, what a brutal bill. Israel needs this for its defense. 2 portions of that. Number one, what defense? All they've done is offense for at least the last year and a half. So give them a bunch of months after October 7th for so-called self-defense, although I didn't really see any of that. All I saw was carpet bombing, right? But 75% of Gaza is destroyed. Now they're moving 2 million people into a tiny little area that former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert called a concentration camp. What defense? Then they attack Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Gaza, West Bank. It's a what defense? What defense are you talking about, right? But okay, give them all that and say, well, yeah, October 7th happened. Sometimes rockets come. So, okay, they need defense. Okay, so they need it. So what? No, I don't mean like don't give them defense and I don't care if they live or die. No, I want to protect the civilians. But I also want to protect British civilians and Canadian civilians and US. We're all important allies, etc. But the UK never comes to us and say, I need defense, so you owe it to me. Give me all your money, okay? Give me $300 billion. I need it for my defense. Well, it's true, Britain does need it for defense. But why is it our responsibility? Why do we owe Israel $500 million for their defense? I got a great idea. Okay, you need it for your defense, you say, that makes sense. Then why don't you pay for it? Oh, well, you guys have the technology. I know, why don't you pay us like every other country does? No, I demand your money. And all the dogs in Congress healed. They got this mythology, like we owe them something. Like we owe them. What do we owe? Why do we owe them anything? We don't owe them. And then I asked that on social media. Some guy's like, oh, the Holocaust. But wait a minute, guys. The Holocaust was one of the worst things that ever happened in human history. But we didn't do the Holocaust. We saved them from the Holocaust. And that wasn't them anyway. That was innocent Jewish civilians. That wasn't the government of Israel. But even if you think it is them, well, maybe the Germans owe them. But why do we owe them for saving them from the Holocaust? It doesn't make any sense. There's no justification. Do you want to know why 98% of the crooks in Congress voted that way? Because AIPAC is the #1 donor to Congress in this election cycle. #1 donor. Anyone who doesn't tell you that in the context of this story, which by the way is literally every single mainstream media outlet, they're all giant liars covering up for the state of Israel, saying, oh, no. Oh, the AIPAC money had nothing to do with it. Oh, I'm sure. And the 17 billion we give in oil subsidies, the oil companies' donations had nothing to do with it, right? Almost everyone in mainstream media are giant liars. So that's the heart of the explanation. I have more details. I want to get to Jackson in a second. But if you're thinking, but wait a minute, I know there's good people that in this case voted in the other direction. AOC, Ro Khanna, Jamie Raskin, Jasmine Crockett, et cetera. Why did they go in that direction? Because when Israel says it's for my defense, if you don't do that, oh, you're marked for destruction. That is a scarlet letter that you won't be able to get off your, every time you run for anything. If AOC runs for governor, for a senator in New York, or she runs for president, or anyone else runs for anything, they'll be like, oh, they voted against Israel's defense. They voted with the terrorists. And you know who'll say that? Or imply it? Every mainstream media reporter, editor, publisher, because it's a giant Israel protection racket. What do you mean we owe them? So bottom line, look, I got 1,000 things to say about that terrorist loving Randy Fine, et cetera. But either we have the $500 million or Israel has the $500 million. That's the bottom line. And 422 congressmen said we should not have it. Another government should have it. Israel should have it. They shouldn't buy it from us. We should gift it to them. The American people need to have their paychecks docked. You work hard, work another hour. Israel needs more money. Work 2 more hours, work 2 more days. Israel needs more money. You shouldn't have the money. Israel should have the money. Those are traitors, I'm sorry. But come on, man. Come on, this is disgusting. And it's not like, oh wait, how about Ukraine and they're defending themselves against Russia. In the case of Israel, they're the ones attacking. They attacked Iran. They attacked Syria just 2 days ago. They're constantly attacking, taking money. They're in the middle of a genocide with our money. And we're still talking about defending themselves. This is just giant, but the good guys who voted with Israel in this case, I'm telling you, man, I get the political calculation. Because if they dared to vote against Israel on this, mainstream media would have made it their life's mission to destroy their careers. And anyone who says otherwise is a giant liar, and I'll debate them. If you're a mainstream media reporter at New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, wherever you are, come on the Young Turks and justify your horse crap coverage of this. Tell me why Israel's such a special ally that they must take our money. We must give it to them. No, the whole thing's a giant lie, and I'm so sick of it. Jackson.
Well, let's think it. The one time that Marjorie Taylor Greene makes some sense, she gets totally shut down, and she's probably never going to make sense again. So we wasted a beautiful opportunity. But the idea that Israel desperately needs this money is just ridiculous. First and foremost, what about the US aid that we cut off for people who need access to medicine for HIV and things along those lines? How the levels of that are going to spike? We just cut off almost $1 trillion in Medicaid from our own American citizens who desperately need that. Most of them being in Republican red state rural areas who voted for Donald Trump. The SNAP that we just cut off. All these programs that we disabled in the regulatory and administrative state that American citizens count on. But Israel, who has universal health care, universal tax dollars paying for their citizens to go to college, they have it better than we do off of our dime. And, you got to think as well, it's not just the fact that the United States government has basically aided and abetted and propped up Israel ever since their founding, but these people are good friends with Benjamin Netanyahu himself, who is waging this campaign largely to stay out of prison. So everybody who voted against this is actively helping to keep Netanyahu out of prison where he belongs. So all of this is just friends scratching each other's backs at the end of the day. And you pointed out all the AIPAC money and things like that. You know, you're only going to do so far. I mean, you're only going to go so far. You're only going to cross so many lines before you're worried about your boss firing you. And that's just how corrupted our system is. But the idea that these people desperately need this money, and I listed off, the programs that we cut off here at for American citizens, but what about all these nations who are like struggling for food, struggling for clean water, struggling for medical supplies, and we're not helping them? How cut off from the public interest are our publicly elected officials? Because the everyday average person is not talking about this, other than maybe their support for Palestinian lives. People are more so concerned about affording their mortgages and their rents and things like that. So it's just really a shame to see all these people helping Netanyahu stay out of prison.
Yeah, and Cenk, I know we have to go to break, but I just wanted to add on to something that you said, that if someone like AOC or Jasmine Crockett or Ro Khanna ever want to run for anything ever again, not only will the mainstream media continually bring up their voting record as it pertains to this vote or to Israel in general, not only will the Republicans, but other Democrats are going to do that too and use that as a dig against them. We're already seeing that happen with Mamdani, for example, who doesn't even have a voting record, but he's already getting torched by other Democrats in New York for not being explicitly pro-Israel. So I just want to mention that before we go to break.
Yeah, my real quick point here is two things. Randy Fine talked about, there's Americans that live there. One of our members wrote in saying like, well, the Americans live in almost all countries. It's not a reason, but it goes further than that. Since 2022, Israel has murdered 8 American citizens, and we've done nothing about it. There's no accountability. Our great, wonderful special ally keeps killing our citizens. So the last one was a 20-year-old from Florida. The Israeli settlers beat him to death for 3 hours. The one before that was a 14-year-old American. Another one was an American journalist shot by a sniper in the neck. She had a press vest on, so they had to shoot her in the neck to kill her. Any accountability? Nothing. If you say that Israel doesn't control our government, you're being ridiculous. You're being totally propagandist liar. It's the most obvious thing in the world. You're telling me the #1 donor to Congress has no effect on Congress? You'd have to be an utter fool or a giant liar to say that. So we owe Israel. Nobody ever explains why we owe them. Okay, just real quick, this is 500 million extra on top of the $3.8 billion we give them every year, on top of the $20 to $30 billion we gave them to commit this genocide, on top of the $311 billion we've given them in their lifetime. When do we get the $300 billion back? When does Israel owe us anything? But if you dare ask the question, does Israel owe America after we gave them everything in the world, weapons, $300 billion, protection in the United Nations, everything? They'll say, how dare you say that Israel owes America anything? No, you only owe Israel. Now, all of our dogs go and vote for Israel and not America. Make sure that money does not go to American citizens. It only goes to Israel. And they all go, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir. And ABC, CNN, mainstream media, New York Times, don't criticize me. I bow to Israel, I bow to Israel. That's the reality. That's the absolute stone cold reality in America. We're occupied here. Palestinians, you're not alone. Americans have no control over their own government. You just saw it there, 422 to 6. And the 422 said, you American citizens that pay taxes, you owe Israel. Oh, did you all just get bribed by them? Yeah, but it's legalized bribery. It's legalized bribery. If you talk about it, you're the hateful one. So go and fund their genocide, because that would be the non-hateful thing to do. This is disgusting. We don't even control our own country. And if you say, that's a trope. No. Shut up, you liars. The drug companies also own this country. The oil companies also own this country. Military companies, Big Sugar owns this country. All of the donor class owns all of those corrupt congressmen. They never work for us. They work for the donor class. Israel happens to be one of the donors, but you don't get to use Jewish history and Jews across the world as human shields and go, oh, I give you hundreds of millions of dollars, crook politicians. You give me back hundreds of billions of dollars. But if anyone points out the bribery, anti-Semitic trope, hide behind the Jewish civilians. Nah, you don't get to hide anymore. You're a government. And this particular government of Israel, not all governments of Israel, but this government of Israel is deeply evil, committing one of the most terrible genocides of our lifetimes. And all of our Congress tells us, you owe them more money. Go work harder so that Israel can commit more genocides. They've killed 20,000 children with our money. And if you dare say, as Marjorie Taylor Greene or Rashida Tlaib Summerlee, Thomas Massie, et cetera, on both sides, if you dare say that we don't owe them and we don't have to keep paying for their genocide, they say, you're the racist, anti-Semite bigot, and you're an outsider, and you should never be allowed to have any real position of power in this country. And then you tell me that that government is not occupied? No, the only people saying that are giant liars or people who are good people who believe the mythology and really got themselves to believe that we have to serve Israel. We must serve Israel and give them everything they want. It's nonsense, it's lies. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.